How about you?
Hey, Doug.
What are y'all doing?
We're just holding up good.
We know it's not going to be a 9-hour meeting.
No, it's not.
It's not gonna be a 9-hour meeting.
No.
I don't care how long y'all are here.
Yeah, I got mine. I get home.
So I have an extra, because Steve had his,
Okay.
so if somebody needs one.
Did you get your Monticello stuff researched?
Yeah, and then I went to the junction yesterday and got my mom's little dog for 2 weeks and babysitting when the puppy's real.
How's Carter? Do we know?
You ready?
That's why my mom went to Denver.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know if he's gonna live long enough to get a heart transplant. It's just sad. My little man,
Alright, the time is 12 p.m. Today is Friday, August 23rd, 2019. We're going to call to order the Grand County Change in Form of Government Study Committee regular meeting. If we could have Marcy Till lead us in the pledge, that would be great. Please rise.
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Moving now to approval of the minutes. We have all had a chance to review the August 12th, 2019 minutes, and if folks have any questions or review of the minutes or changes, please let me know. Bob.
On page 2, the last paragraph, Bob then read a statement for the record attached, period, and strike the rest of the paragraph and attach a statement. And then on page 7, in that big fat paragraph just below the middle of the page, Attorney Anderson reiterated the draft doctrinal plans filed with the compliance to the tax constitution, and the county attorney must set out specifics.
Do we have Gavin on the line? It just occurred to me.
Oh, no, I don't think we have Gavin Anderson on the line.
And make that, must set out
Specifics, period. Yep.
The rest of the sentence all. Then the last sentence in that paragraph.
Sorry, I can't.
No, you're fine. I got the one edit. We can take a second. Do you want to call Mr. Anderson?
Well, I'm sorry. I interrupted you. I am very much sorry. I have had a death in the family, and so I'm not myself.
Is he standing by?
I'm so sorry. What?
Is he waiting for us?
He's not on the line. He's not on the line.
I don't think we need him. I'll probably
I
go.
hope not.
Well, do we want him or not? Because he was planning to be on the call.
That would be. We can take a minute and get him on the line. We're not rushed.
Or no, let's take a few minutes.
I'm so sorry.
No, don't be
Fine.
sorry.
You're fine.
I thought I was okay.
Do not be sorry. Just take a breath. Take your time.
If you're not okay, I will take minutes.
Thank you.
Feel free to excuse yourself.
That's
I
good.
appreciate that. I really think I'll be okay. I rushed in here and I
You're
wasn't
good.
prepared.
The research says multitasking doesn't work.
Right.
I'm sorry, I was.
Well, if that's true, I'm in trouble because that's what I do all the time.
I know, but it
It's
increases your efficiency
inefficient.
in both tasks, according to research. Not that you don't do it. You do.
Sometimes ineffective.
You have to.
Yeah. In our world, it's kind of impossible.
Yeah, but it's rude. I apologize. I forgot to open up the conference line and put it on the phone on the grid.
That's why I couldn't get on, I guess.
Yeah, I'm
But I'm here now.
really sorry. I just did not understand that. We are in session. We are in the minutes right now, making some changes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So we've made 2 changes so far.
And then at the end of that at the end of that paragraph, in order to be in compliance with the state code and/or constitution, and if she completes her work by September 6th, it will be on the 2019 ballot. That's it.
And may I go back,
So-
what was the other
so
change in
the
that
two-
paragraph?
Yeah,
go ahead.
we've just got the two edits. So we've got an edit on for everyone to recap. On page 2, bottom paragraph, it would be read, Bob then read a statement for the record attached, period. Strike everything else in that paragraph,
Yeah, but
even on
Attach
page
your actual
3,
statement.
and attach the actual
Yeah.
statement.
I gave it to Ruth at the meeting.
And then on page 7, the other two changes we have on the third paragraph after motion beginning with Attorney Anderson reiterated, we will strike the language that says, the sentence says, then the county attorney must set out specific ways for compliance and statutes. We are going to strike out ways for compliance and statutes and just set out specifics. Then the last change is adding an and before the comma at the end of that paragraph, so it will read in compliance with state code and/or constitution, and it will be on.
And if she completes
and if she
her
completes,
work by
right.
September 6th.
That'll be on the ballot.
So
Those are the
I-
only changes that we have so far. Bob, if you continue.
That's it?
Perfect.
Mr. Chair, I'm so sorry. I
You're fine.
still can't seem to find that first, in that paragraph Attorney Anderson reiterated. I can't find where you're talking. Oh, I see it, the first sentence. Okay. Specific, so what am I striking?
You're striking ways for compliance and site statutes,
Okay.
but changing specific to specifics.
Oh, plural. Got it. Thank you.
Perfect. And those are the only changes.
Got it.
Anyone else have changes? Marcy, Walt, Cricket, Judy, Mr. Anderson?
Move we approve with the changes.
Perfect. We've got a motion to approve the minutes with those aforementioned changes, seconded by Cricket Green. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously, 6-0. Those in attendance for today's meeting, since I failed to mention it prior, we have Ruth Dillon, Judy Carmichael, Marcy Till, Stephen Stocks, Jeremy Day is absent for medical reasons, Bob Greenberg, Cricket Green, Walt Dabney, with attorney Gavin Anderson on the telephone. Moving now to general reports. Seeing none, we'll move to community outreach and possible action. Item B, developing a new campaign to educate the public on the optional plan. In the event that the optional plan is found by the county attorney, or is found constitutional, I know it doesn't say it, but that's is found constitutional by the county attorney by September 6, 2019 to be legally compliant with the state constitution and state code. Marcy.
So what day of the week is September 6th?
It's your next meeting. It's
Friday.
Friday. 2 weeks from now.
Okay. So I would
Marcy?
say, I would recommend that we just be thinking about this in terms of what we might want to do prior to that meeting, and that depending on what the county attorney recommends at that meeting, we can decide how we want to move forward. You know, the newspapers have been giving us accurate coverage. I know that Howard would like to get us back on the radio at KZMU,
Okay.
but we're kind of in limbo.
Cricket, then Bob.
I would say, and not now, Ruth, not for a while, not for a while, but maybe look at a day that we could possibly have an open house at the Grand Center, and, you know, I mean, just kind of look at what's available, because we are getting into the, you know, the fall and the holiday, and just kind of so we can come to the meeting with a couple options, okay? And no hurry on that at all.
Bob?
Yeah, and I'd like to suggest we just kind of redo all the open houses. And so if you check also Spanish Valley Water and Sewer and the courthouse and the Castle Valley Town Hall, I think that would be a great way to do it.
Perhaps someone would make a motion to maybe make a subcommittee like we did last time and suggest individuals to reach out to those individual areas.
Go for it, Bob.
Walt?
Just a question, if it doesn't make it on the 2019 ballot, there's no point in doing this right now, is there?
Well, I don't know. Well,
I'm asking the question, yeah.
You know, that's an interesting
I think it might be
question.
worth
Maybe we
doing
could
it.
go back to the citizens and explain what happened.
Mhm. At least
And,
maybe
I
have
mean-
one meeting to do that.
Right.
Maybe not all.
We don't need
Three.
4 meetings to tell them that.
No.
No, but we could have something at the
We could
Grand
have one.
Center or at Star Hall.
Yeah, and
just
it'll be
say,
a different thing if they find substance that we didn't get right versus that we just didn't get
We-
around to it.
Yeah.
Substance, I would say Star Hall would be really good, because that's kind of where we began,
Yeah.
with Gavin
With
explaining.
Gavin.
So we could have, maybe that same subcommittee could arrange either Plan A or Plan B, the backup plan. We did have one letter that was in the paper that somebody expressed great confusion about some of the things that, or some confusion about,
Gene Bynum,
yes.
Gene
Binion.
Binion.
Should have read your article better, huh?
So,
I know Jean. I'd be happy to give her a call.
does anybody want to suggest maybe a subcommittee or how we want to approach doing that?
I'll work on it again.
Okay, Walt would be interested, Bob would be interested, Judy would be interested. Okay, somebody has to make the motion though.
Oh,
You have to pick 3.
But you can only pick 3. Okay.
can't be what?
Can't be 4.
Can't be 4 people.
So,
So would the motion be that we form a subcommittee to inform the public, regardless of what the outcome is from the county attorney, where the study committee stands,
The status. Yeah.
just kind of update the community.
And what members would be in?
through-
With the proposals.
Huh?
Come to the meeting with proposals.
Walt, Bob, and,
No,
no, Walt,
I'm out of town all
Craig.
next week.
Judy,
No.
and
Marcy's making the motion.
Me?
Yes.
Perfect. So we've got a motion to create a subcommittee comprised of Walt,
I thought Bob
Judy,
already
and
volunteered.
No, I did
Marcy
not.
to update the public regardless of the outcome of the optional plan proposal, be it approval on this year's ballot or in the future. Any seconded by Cricket? Any discussion?
Yeah, and we might, if the county attorney finds problems, we might be explaining to the community the changes we've made or negotiated to fix them. And just as an aside here, my doctor specifically asked me to call him before I volunteer for anything else.
Oh, right.
Walt, did you have anything?
no, it's just gonna be a lot harder thing to be explaining if there's no technical problem and we just didn't get around to it. That's not gonna be much fun to go to an open house.
That's an unfair characterization, Walt.
Yeah.
We just
I
didn't get
think we
around
just
to it.
have to
That
let
assumes
play
kind of bad
out.
faith.
Well, it may be, Bob.
It's not fair
So when do?
and uncalled for.
You need a second.
Cricket.
Oh, I missed that.
It's okay.
Are you gonna call, are we discussing this now?
We're discussing this, yes. Marcy,
So I think that we
Marcy,
should meet, I think we should meet, sometime in the next 2 weeks and just kind of put together a skeleton idea of what might or might not happen. And I think that whatever needs to occur can occur during the month of October even, or, late September, early October, either way. And then we'd be good to roll at the beginning of November or not.
and the reason why we're doing this is because we don't meet until September 6th. So we will know at that point whether or not we made it or didn't make it on the ballot. So that's kind of why, and because we had kind of had hopes of not having a meeting today, but we have to we have to kind of prepare for whatever outcome, and that's kind of why we're doing this now. So I just wanted to clarify that.
and so
Okay.
basically just, I mean, this is my thought, and I don't know, figure out, we're gonna go to the public either way.
Right.
If it's approved, then we're gonna try to have the 4 open houses. Or we're
Right.
not gonna try, we are gonna figure out the 4 open houses. If it's not, we'll just do a Gavin type thing at the Star Hall, because that's where we started. And then we'll have to by then we'll have to figure out, well, and if it comes back that it's not going on the ballot on the 6th, then we'll have a game plan of what we do from there.
Right, and we should just have dates. If we had, the neat thing is, Star Hall is a completely separate date than
Yes.
the open house.
Right.
So that's
Right.
probably the most important thing, is just have dates ahead of time, because the venues fill up with things, and if we did it last minute, I don't think we would be able to.
And I would say too, I think, or usually the sooner the better. I would think October would be better, because people are still settling in, going back to school, but it's closer to the election. If we are on the ballot, October would be better.
Right.
Because then we could give them enough information that they'd have time to study and be able to make their decision, opposed to maybe if we start in September, by November.
Well,
Yeah.
so it'll be a mail-out ballot, so it would have to be early October
Yeah.
before the ballots hit.
Yeah.
So is this subcommittee also responsible for other forms of publicity regarding?
I would just say keep it simple and keep it to the dates. Because if you guys are just, well, what we really need is a game plan set in place to call the places up and say, hey, look, we don't know, tentatively, are these dates available? We want to have an open house here, here, and here, and here. And they'll say, yes. Can you hold those dates for us? Great. Call Star Hall. Do the same thing. Then that legwork is done. Before the documents or whatever we need to produce on September 6th, you will probably get much more help from everyone else to say, here are flyers, here this, here this. That's how I envisioned it. Well,
So if one of us isn't here, somebody else can fill in, because we're gonna be out at,
right. It's just getting it's really just getting dates
yeah. Okay.
and contacting these venues. It's not a bigger long-term project. It's just those things.
So, Mr. Chair, just to clarify then, I don't need to be reaching out for dates. The subcommittee will
Yes.
figure out their skeleton
Yes.
plan and do it. Thank you. We'll come up with a plan.
Any other discussion on that? If not, we'll move to vote. All in favor of appointing a subcommittee to take on educating the voters, regardless of the outcome, and arranging dates with all the events venues. Passes unanimously 6-0. Any other discussion on item B? If not, we'll move to item C. Drafting an argument in favor statement for a voter information pamphlet for delivery to the county clerk on or before September 6, 2019, in the event that the optional plan is found by the county attorney to be legally compliant. So, Bob.
Can we take volunteers? I would love to volunteer, but as I said, I'm out of town till the 3rd, so.
Anyone have interest in
Well, I'd be
drafting?
happy to see a draft. I could respond by email.
Perfect.
Third of what?
September.
And in the last page of your
October?
packet, there is the sample.
The last
March. That's
The
right,
very
till
last
March.
page, you have to limit it to 500 words.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
This was used in last year's election. This was adopted at that time by the county council to get the shall a study committee be appointed question on the
It has
ballot.
to be 500 words?
Up
Minimum.
to.
Up to.
Or maximum, sorry. I would be happy to work on it.
Thank you. I
And
was
I'd be
gonna
happy to
see if I
work
could
with you by
volunteer.
email.
Sure.
And I'm down the street, so I'd help you with that too. So.
Yeah, no
So
more than the
let's-
3 of you.
Right. If anybody
That's
wants
enough.
to make a motion to that, I will undertake it alone and then give it to the committee to review.
I'd like to make a motion that we form a committee, and the committee be, well, Bob and you.
Okay.
And you get, come back with some kind of idea.
For the pro statement.
For the pro statement. Excellent. We have
On
a
the
second?
6th.
Second.
6th?
So can we have a second?
Do we have a second? Yeah.
I'll second.
Marcy? Any other discussion? I would undertake the drafting of the document. I would envision that Walt can give me his input and then Bob can edit it. That's how I would envision that.
Sounds
Marcy?
great.
It's not a lot of space for the amount of information that we need to give. So that's kind of the one struggle that we will have.
And,
Ruth?
Oh, it sounds like Marcy's trying to
well,
say
I was
something.
just gonna say, I saw that Chris sent us an email and said we don't have to have an against statement. The against statement would essentially be for a three-man
Three-person.
commission.
Or you could do it either way.
It's not
Because-
clear from Gavin's latest communication.
Mr. Anderson, do you want to clarify it?
Apparently we have till,
Can't quite hear the question.
apparently we have till 2020. If it fails, we have till 2020 to come up with another plan. before it reverts. That's what I interpret Gavin's latest email to say.
I think that was
Yeah, I think
Christina's.
we already discussed the notion that if Christina does find problems with the current draft, then the election for this November's off. And then the deadlines, I think, are all open again for the study committee to go back in, make changes as recommended by Christine. And then in anticipation of the ballot in 2020.
Could,
Is
But-
that getting close to the question?
Yes,
I've got a
kind
very
of.
bad connection.
The other half of the question is if it fails, if it gets on the ballot and fails at the polls, I understood you to say that the study committee could then take another bite at the apple as long as we finished before our March expiration date.
I think the other bite of the apple is that you could interpret some language, it's a little vague, in HB 224 that says, seems to say that the study committee could help with a transition plan
Yeah, but
to
not
a three-member county commission. There wouldn't really be a need for an optional plan because the Utah Code on counties is already at default for a three-member county commission. And so I don't think we really have to say anything in terms of an optional plan. But I do think either the county council, the existing county council, or the study committee would have to come up with a transition plan. The most important things in the transition plan would be the effective date of the three-member county commission and then the initial terms of 3 county commissioners.
we've got a question from Marcy.
So, we were talking about the voter information pamphlet, needing a, Chris Baird stated that we don't need an against statement. What I was trying to ascertain is, the against statement essentially would be pro 3-person commission.
Well, not necessarily. The anti-statement could simply be, you shouldn't vote in favor of the council manager form of government. It would be kind of stupid to say don't vote for it without talking about the alternatives. What the alternative obviously is the 3-member county commission.
Right.
I don't think you'd have to say. I don't think you'd have to tell whoever drafts the statement in opposition. I don't think you can tell them what to say in their statement. You can't tell them to talk about the optional plan. Talk about the 3-member county commission. One of the things that shows up in voter information pamphlets, and I don't know if there's enough room or enough inclination to do this, is not only do you have an argument for, but you have a rebuttal against that argument, and then you have an argument against, and you have a rebuttal against that argument. Now, in almost very few voter information pamphlets that I've seen, does it have a complete roster of all those elements. But it seems to me if you felt strongly about it, that if the argument against didn't say anything about a 3-member commission, that it'd be a fair, it'd be a good idea, probably appropriate for whoever writes the for statement to say, hey, do you realize what happens if you don't vote in favor of it, and point out the possibilities. Again, I think we can anticipate, but maybe we just need to wait and see what's happening. Have we heard it from anybody who's willing to write an anti-statement?
No.
In fact, the clerk has reached out to some obvious candidates who all declined. So I don't think there will be a against statement at all, frankly.
One other thing too, the voter information pamphlet is within Chris's jurisdiction. So,
He's asked for our help.
taking on, all of the burden, all the labor in putting this together, I think he'd be well advised to use the study committee. But that's not a study committee function. That's up to the county clerk. And it is optional. It's not mandatory.
Right. Yeah, we understand that.
Okay.
So I think I've got other questions for Mr. Anderson after we get done with this topic. But any other questions about the motion that we have at hand, appointing a subcommittee of Walt, myself, Bob to write this up, Ruth?
I have a comment that September 6th is 60 days before November 5th. September 6th is Friday, your next meeting, 2 weeks from today.
It's the last
September
day.
6th, you have to have the motion, if you're going to do this VIP pro statement, ready to
Yeah.
approve,
Yep.
so
Yep.
we can deliver it immediately that
Yep.
day.
We got it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other?
Thank you for keeping us in line, girl.
Any other questions, comments, discussion on this? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. The vote essentially is that we have a or a subcommittee to handle the argument in favor for the voter information pamphlet. The subcommittee members would be myself, Stephen Stocks, Walt Dabney, Bob Greenberg, to make sure that this is drafted and delivered to us September 6, 2019, to be prepared to be submitted if the question of the optional plan is on the ballot this year. All in favor, please raise your hand. All against, passes 6-0. 6-0, if I could speak. Item C, suggestions for additional public service announcements and or flyer update. Marcy.
I think we ought to postpone this till
Yep.
the 6th.
Motion to postpone item D, suggestions for additional public service announcements and or flyer update to our September 6th meeting. Do we have a second by Walt Dabney? We do. All in favor, discussion on this? Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of postponing item D, suggestions for additional public service announcements and or flyer update to September 6th, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously 6-0. Citizens to be heard. Now is the time. Out there,
Come on, citizen, say something.
seeing none, we will move on to presentations. There are none. There is no general business action items. There's no consent agenda items, no discussion items, no discussion possible items on action on study strategy, no public hearing, possible action items, future considerations. Walt.
It's not posted. Can we just talk about the future a little bit? Is that what we're going to do right now?
Yeah.
I just want to see if
what do you?
Well, I was just looking at election scenarios if this doesn't make the 2019 ballot.
Right.
And I'd like you to correct me, and Ruth may know this better if I'm thinking of this wrong. In 2020, Curtis, Rory, Evan, Greg go off and have to be reelected. Plus Terry is going to go off because he's moving his district. So that's 5. So in 2020, if we don't make the 2019 ballot to decide on optional plan, we would vote on the optional plan, plus we've got to elect 5 new members.
Right. 2020.
Those 5 new members would then serve for 2 years.
If the optional plan stays the same, and
if the optional plan stays, they would, if it's approved, which I think it probably will be, but may not, then they serve for 2 years. We have another election, everybody is out. Everybody has to run again. 5 people have to run in 2022. 3 of those will run again for 2 years.
Right.
And because that has to get to the next presidential election, and 2 of them for 4 years.
Correct.
That's going to set this up for a whole lot of expensive voting and campaigning and all that kind of thing. I just wanted to be sure I was looking at that right.
Because
it does put it into a really different logistical world.
Because you're handling 2 things. You're handling dissolving the terms, and then you're
Exactly.
making sure that you have the
Staggered
terms.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 things.
We used to elect
So you're
county
gonna have-
commissioners every 2 years
You're
anyway.
going to have
Just
a
one.
bunch of these people either not running again or whatever, but serving for 2 years.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's right.
At a minimum of 8 of them.
Well, the first 5,
Right, and then
or the first 7,
right, and then
5 will
R3,
be for 2 years.
and then R3. So 8 people will serve over a 4-year span, 2-year terms.
2 and 2.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Ruth, did you have a comment on that?
Well, I wanted to be sure I understood if you were saying all that based on if the optional plan.
Does not.
If it doesn't make the 19
If it
ballot.
doesn't
If
make
it
19.
does, then,
Well,
and the
well, then-
optional plan gets passed, then you have a regular vote in 2020.
I don't believe you have no, I believe you have to have the optional plan adopted, and then 2 years later is when you put the people into that.
No, 1 year later.
Or 1 year later, excuse me.
1 year, that's
I
what
mean,
I'm
it
saying.
has to be on an even year for
Yes,
county.
right.
Yeah.
And it would be in 2020 then.
That's
So
right.
then you could do your 3 for 4 years, and
That's if the 2019 ballot.
No, we
passes.
still have to stagger, and it's in the transition plan.
That's if
Marcy.
the 2019 ballot passes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought you
Right,
said 2020.
no,
Okay.
no.
So, if it does not pass,
So,
would our current county council could they create a transition plan so that by 2020, they're ready to move to the 3-person commission?
They could.
That's what I
They
think.
and,
If it
they
gets
and you
defeated.
guys.
If it's defeated,
oh yeah, I'm not
yeah,
talking about.
you guys were talking about two different things.
She's
She's saying
talk-
if it's on the ballot and it's voted down.
Yeah, he's talking about if it doesn't make the ballot.
Right.
oh, and you're
Two
talking
different
about if
scenarios.
it doesn't make the ballot and it has to wait till 2020, then we create.
Well, that's where I was saying, in 2020, that would be for the optional plan. 2022 would be when you would put the people
Yes.
into that plan.
Yes.
2020, you pass the optional plan, but 5 new commission, or
Yeah, that's what he's
councilmen
saying.
I
get
see.
elected
Under the current.
under the current
Oh, I see.
plan.
Yeah.
They join the 2 that are still in place.
Yes,
They serve
exactly.
for 2 years.
Yes.
Then you have another election,
Yes.
and
In
of
2
those,
years.
3 of them are
Just
only
stagger.
going to serve for 2 years. So
Right.
it's
That's
just
right.
it's just a bunch of
It's kind of a
elections.
waste of time.
Mr. Morris resigned, his position will just be appointed by the council.
Yes.
If it's
but,
less than half.
but
It
for
has
the
to be
remainder
less
of his
than half
term,
the
right?
But for
He
2.
will have had to have completed 2 years.
But if he
and
doesn't
this is
complete
his
2
first
years,
year.
then it'll be a special election.
Okay, thank you.
One other, Mr. Anderson, this is more geared towards you. Is there the scenario, and we've seen a lot of emails flying around, is there the scenario that the optional plan is shot down and that they would create a new study committee to come up with a new plan?
Yeah, you can.
That's a good question. I'd have to read HB 224 a little more carefully with that in mind. I would say yes, except in the past, and I'm not sure if 224 changed it, there were statutory limits on how often you could bring up a new...
Every 2 years.
I thought it was a
2
year and a
years.
half.
2 years.
2 years.
Beg pardon?
Everyone thinks it's 2 years.
Except for Morris.
Except for Marcy, who thinks it's a year and a half.
And the other question is, there may be a difference if the optional plan fails at an election as opposed to an optional plan passes an election. Anyway, my thinking is that they could start over again. And of course, under the language of HB 224, the council could decide to put it on the ballot again. I mean, put on the ballot the question of whether to form a new study committee.
All right.
So, anyway, you've been through that, you know what I mean?
Yep. I just wanted to ask the question.
Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
I'll take a look and see if there's a more definitive answer, but I don't think that appears in the bill anymore.
Excellent. Any other future considerations? Nope. Ruth?
Just,
I sent out an
Oh.
email just only a half hour before you met. You may not have had a chance to look at it. Bob had asked earlier if the study committee has a life sentence. Obviously not, hopefully not. HB 224 is not completely clear, but one thing that is clear is that you folks are all out of business by March the 8th of 2020.
So I have
And I had just mentioned a couple of other things that go on that might potentially be in the study committee's bailiwick. Number one, most significant, of course, is if Christina finds that the plan violates state statutes, then it's not on the ballot in November, and the study committee has a few months in which to correct any problems that Christina finds. So that would be another function of the study committee.
We should probably put that on the agenda for next time we meet.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I said we're going to add that as an item on the plan, because in the event that it's shot down, I guess have a meeting to, I guess the agenda item would be to review potential errors or violations of state statute or constitutional law,
And how to fix them.
and how to fix them.
to be presented by the
That's
county
a good
attorney.
topic.
Yeah.
the other things we've already talked about is more public outreach and public hearings. That's clearly within the study committee's powers between now and election day. And then the other thing would be whether the study committee had any role, assuming the election were held this November and failed, would the study committee have any role in coming up with a transition plan for a 3-member county commission?
And will you do the research to confirm with us if that is within our wheelhouse or obligations by our September 6th date?
You mean by in terms of helping with a transition plan?
Correct.
If it fails.
If
it's on the ballot
so
and if it
hypothetically,
fails.
if it's no. Yeah. If it's on the ballot and it fails, it gets shot down. What obligations we have as the study committee to help with the transitional plan? I guess that would be something else to discuss on this or put on the 6th potentially.
I did. Again, this is a problem with the drafting of HB 224. It's not very clear. And so in my email that I sent out an hour ago, I do discuss, it's about a 1-sentence legal opinion, that you could make the argument that yes, the study committee does have that authority to help with a transition plan because the statute says, quoting, okay, so basically if the election fails, go to 3-member county commission, and quoting, the county shall transition to the form of government described in section so-and-so, which is a 3-member county commission, in the same manner as if the voters of the county had approved the change in the form of government described otherwise. So, in the same manner, you have to try and read between the lines. Does that say?
Is it their intent to
include activities of the study committee? It's vague enough that I couldn't give you a very firm answer, but you can certainly make a good argument for it. And to me, it sounds like that would be the kind of thing that there'd be a lot of horse trading with Christina, Chris, and the current county council to decide who would play what role.
Well, the question will also be, do we want to participate in that?
Having just made a recommendation that we believe in.
And they shot down.
I have another question, if we're not skipping over that.
Bob, do you have anything on that?
Just that comment. It may be that it's within our authority, but the other question is, are we required to? If it's within our authority, but we're not required to, then it becomes a question of what we want to do.
Right, and I would say I would probably not feel comfortable continuing forward if our plan got shot down to be in charge of a transitional plan. I don't think that's my opinion.
Okay, but
Let's cross that bridge if we come to it.
and let's don't be perceived as we got mad and took our toys and went home.
No.
And I think that's how it would be perceived. Instead of, hey, we're doing the best for our community. This is what the community wants. So how do we help make it happen?
No, that's a fair point.
I think that it'd be more like that would be very bad to look like, well, we don't want to play anymore if we can't have our way.
I just think that maybe it wasn't our vision. What I would say is maybe we're not the person to lead the vision, as opposed to quitting, just saying perhaps we could appoint more people to come play on the study committee that maybe had the better vision.
Well, it would seem there are very few decisions to make if you're going to go to a 3-person. You're not talking about manager. You're not talking about anything other than transitioning the voters 2 and 1 probably.
But you could do dissolving, extending terms. There's a bunch that you could meddle with.
Let's cross that bridge if we come to it. It's really totally speculative at this point.
Here's a viable question. I guess that's the word. So if Christina finds fault with our documents at some level, and we take them back and we make corrections, now it's on the ballot in 2020. Our study committee obligation has ended in March of 2020, and yet I feel like this is the committee that is the most knowledgeable to champion and present that information to the community, and we're no longer.
That's right.
That's right.
So we can't act as a committee
So we
after
have to
March
act as
8th.
individuals.
That's right.
Right.
Okay.
We don't have the authority to go further than our time length.
They didn't think of that.
Well, we would have to give our plan, and our plan
Well-
would be submitted to her in advance, and that would complete our duties. The open houses, I think that's one kind of oddity. Cricket?
The thing is, they didn't have to think it out because they thought it would happen right away and it would be
Yeah.
on the ballot. They didn't perceive that it would get drug out and not make the ballot. So I don't think it's fair to put it on the law because they were thinking we're giving them enough time to make it on the ballot next year.
They didn't know the lawsuit was gonna happen.
Yep, right.
Any other future consideration? Mr. Anderson, final thoughts? Anything else you've got for us?
Just so it's clear, if Christina does find a problem with the plan, then it's clearly within the authority or responsibility of the study committee to correct those problems. I suspect if there is a problem, it would be very, very simple, insular, easy to correct, and shouldn't take us very close at all to March 8th.
Gotcha.
Not 3 9-hour days.
Not by me.
All right.
Move we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion to adjourn. Second, anyone?
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Gavin. Thank you, Ruth.
Second, all in favor of adjourning? Passes unanimously, 6-0.
That was
What time
fast.
is it?
It is
12:40. So
12:40.
can I ask you, I want to ask you a lawyer
Lawyer question.
afterwards.
Okay. Should you hold up like Mr. Anderson?
That's
Are you going to do the again?